All right, so we are doing section 2.5, graphing absolute value equations. And I wrote out the standard equation for an absolute value. Okay, so normally, if you write it out in standard form, it's y equal to a times the absolute value of x minus h plus k. All right, that's the way it normally is supposed to look like. A, h, and k will normally be numbers, so it'll be like 2 absolute value of x minus 1 plus 7 or something like that. So there'll be numbers there. But I'm giving you the letters so you can understand what those letters mean in that position, okay? So what is the meaning of A? Okay, A is like your slope, right? So if A was a 3, you'd go 3 up, 1 over. If A was a 1/2, you'd go 1 up, 2 over. If A was a -4, you'd go 4 down, 1 over. Okay? You treat A just like you treat a slope on a line. Okay? Whatever the number is, you're going to treat it just the same way. You're going to either go up and to the right or down and to the right. Are we okay with that? So A is just like your slope. I know it's not an M. We're used to slope being M. Here we're going to use A. And we'll use it for other stuff too. But right now we're starting it off. So A is kind of like your slope for this type of function. If A is positive, the graph is going to open up. They're going to look like the letter V. Okay, sometimes really thin V's, sometimes really wide V's, sometimes normal looking V's, but they're going to look like V's. If A is positive, the V will open upwards. If it's negative, it's going to open downwards. Okay, and A causes the stretching and condensing of the graph. In other words, by condensing, that means that the graph gets squeezed, so it gets sharper, a very sharp V, right? Condensing it. The way it condenses is based on the numbers. If the numbers are like whole numbers, like a 3, a 5, a 10, something like that, something bigger than 1, it tends to condense it, makes it sharper, okay? But if the A value is like a fraction, like a 1/4, it opens up really slow, so that means it gets really wide. So it basically gets stretched, okay? Is that super important to know? I mean, it's good to know, but it's not like key to this homework. But just know that A, the value of A can make the V look really, really thin or really, really wide, okay? Depending on its slope. Okay, a fractional slope usually is wider, and like normal numbers are usually sharper, okay? So, what is the meaning of the H then? So let's talk about that. So, the meaning of H in the function, so H meaning like pretty much right in the middle of the function, right? X minus H, so it's going to be inside of the absolute value. So the meaning of H is horizontal motion. H tells you to move left and right. H for horizontal if you like, okay? But it tells you that you should be moving left or right. Now, if the H value looks like a positive number, if it appears to be a positive number, it actually means you should be moving in a negative direction. So what I mean by that is sometimes people get it mixed up where, like, if I draw a number line, let me do that really quick here. We understand that on number lines, going right is positive and going left is negative, right? That makes sense to us because the positive numbers are to the right and the negative numbers are to the left. Okay, so if someone sees like a -2 for H, if they see a minus, like H equals to -2, if they see something like that, they think, well, negative, I should be going left. But no, you should be going right twice. Okay, I put right there at the very bottom, H is a liar, right? It's telling you one thing, you need to do the other. Okay, so right now we'll get to some examples so you can see this. But just remember, look to see what H looks like. If it looks positive, you're going to move in the negative direction. You're going to go left instead of right. If it looks negative, so in other words, if it looks like you should be going left, you really should be moving right. Okay? So just remember, H is always lying to you. Whatever it shows you, it's the opposite. Okay? Now, the meaning of K. So if K is positive, I said, move up K units. If K is negative, move down K units. K does not lie, so pay attention to what the number says, and that's exactly what the number is. If you see a -3, it's really a -3. Okay, if you see a +2, it's really a +2. Remember, the K value is all the way at the end, right? So you'll see like a -3 at the end or a +7 at the end, okay? That is your K value. So as long as you can identify it, it shouldn't be hard. It's not going to be messing with you, all right? Whatever it has, that's what it is, okay? H is the only one that's trying to trick you. The rest, A, K, honest values, okay? H, no, it's messing with you, so make sure you pay attention. And then the last thing before we start doing examples here, HK is our vertex. So HK, that's where we start our graph. So once we know what HK is, we're going to go to our graph. We're going to put a dot right where it's at, because that's the pointy part of the graph, right? Then we just got to figure out, does it open up or down, and what's my slope, okay? So it isn't hard to do, but we do have to pay attention to three main variables, A, H, and K. That's going to basically tell us what we do with the graph, okay? So let me show you what it looks like when we graph these problems. So the instructions for the first three problems, I think, are just graph each equation. And I'll kind of change around what's given and what's not. And actually, you know what? Let me change one thing. The very last number, just so it doesn't look too confusing. Let's make this a 2 instead of a 3. That way we don't have 2 3s there. So y equals to the absolute value of x minus 3 plus 2. So what I would like you guys to tell me is the AHKs, okay? I want to know the AHKs. So what is A, what is H, and what is K? All right, now sometimes A might be a little tricky because you may not see it. Okay, what is my A term? It's supposed to be in front of the absolute value, right? But it's not there, so what is it? It's a 1, not a 0, because else everything will disappear, right? But it's a 1, right? If you don't see it, it's most likely a 1. It could be a 0, but in this case, it's a 1. Okay? So that means that my slope is 1 over 1. Okay? So remember that. My slope is 1 over 1. H. What's H? Well, it looks like -3. So what is it really? It's a +3, because H is lying to you. Whatever you see, it's the opposite. Okay? K does not lie. What's K? 2. All right. Let me show you how easy it is to graph this stuff. Okay? Well, actually, let me write down my vertex. What's my vertex? It's HK, so it's 3, 2. All right. So let me actually title it. Let me put vertex. It's 3, 2. So here you go. I'm going to go to my vertex, 3, 2. I'm going to put a dot right there. And then all I'm going to do is apply the slope. My slope is supposed to be 1 over 1, correct? So from that point, I'm going to go up 1, 1 over, but do it in both left and right directions. You're going to do both directions, left and right. So you're going to go up 1 and to the right, up 1 and to the left. Because remember, it's supposed to look like the letter V. Okay? And then connect the dots. And we're done. That's it. Now, A is supposed to tell me if it opens up or down. If A is positive, it opens up. If A is negative, it opens down. Does that make sense that it's opening up? Yeah, because A is a +1. Right? So, I mean, is that hard to graph? No, it's pretty easy, right? But you do have to be able to identify the values, A, H, K. You got to know what they are. Okay? So I think that's pretty easy. I don't think it's that hard. Here's another one. So y is equal to -2 times the absolute value of x minus 3 minus a 4. So yeah, I tried to make this really complicated. I mean, I could have put a fraction. Maybe I should have. You guys mind if I make it like a -2/3? Is that okay? Instead of a -2? Let's put a fraction in there. Let's make it even a little bit more complicated. It's not going to make it more difficult though. Okay? Let's just put over a -2/3. Why not? It doesn't change what I need to do. Not at all. Okay? Remember, my objective is A, H, K, and then get my vertex, right? So I can put my dot in the starting place. What's A? Negative 2/3. So that means that my slope is go down twice, 3 times to the right, right? And in this case, and to the left, right? Both ways. What's H? 3, right? I know it looks like -3, but it's a +3. What's K? -4. What's my vertex? All right, 3, -4. All right, that's the hard part. The easy part's coming up. I'm going to put my point at 3, -4. So 3 over -4 down. Okay, so there's my vertex right there. Okay, 3 over -4 down. Now, I know that this is going to be opening downwards. The way I know is because A is negative, right? A is a negative 2/3. So from that red point, let me do my slope. I'm supposed to go down twice, 3 times over, meaning to the right. Down twice, 3 times to the right. But remember, with these graphs, you have to go right and left. Okay, so 3 times to the left. Connect the dots. And there's my graph. Notice how this graph was a little wider than the other one. If you look at the other one really quick, okay, that's a slope of 1. Okay, and this one is a slope of negative 2/3. It's a little bit more open, and the reason is because I have a fraction that's less than 1. So that fraction is going to make it open up a little bit wider. Are we okay with this one? I'm going to change something on the next one too. I feel like just kind of giving you different looks here and there. Let's put a 3 right in front of the absolute value. So I'm going to put equals to 3. Absolute value of x plus 4. Let's make it a little sharper. Maybe, hold on. Since I gave it a 3, that's going to change something. Erase that plus, make it a minus. I'm going to change. I'm changing stuff on the fly, and I'm thinking of the graph, and I'm like, that's not going to look great, so we'll make it a minus, and that'll make it fit perfectly. Because or else the graph wasn't going to fit, and then we'd have to be like, oh, what do we do now, right? Like, no, it's just, let's make sure it fits. Everything you're going to be graphing should fit somehow. Okay? So, doesn't matter what it looks like. I'm always going to be looking for A, H, and K. All right, and then my vertex because I need to know where I'm going to start. So, what's my A value? 3, right? So my slope is 3 up, 1 over, right? What's my H value? This is kind of tricky. That's a 0. This one's a 0. So you might wonder, why was the other one a 0? A 1, and this one a 0. Well, let me explain. If I put a 0 there in the front, if my slope is a 0, what happens when I multiply it times that? 0. It all just disappears. I don't want to do that. So if you don't see a slope, it's not that it's a 0, it's a 1. Right? So when there's a number in front of it that's multiplying it, you don't want to say 0 because then it just cancels everything out. But if H is a 1, then it would look like that. But that's not what mine looks like. Mine has H missing. So how does H go missing? Well, x minus 0 is just x. Right? So if the H and the K are nowhere to be found, that's because they're zeros. If the A is nowhere to be found, it's because A is 1. Okay? So if you cannot find the A is a 1. If you can't find H or K, they're zeros. All right? So you can write that down on the side if you want. So if A is missing, A equals 1. If H and K are missing, they equal 0. All right? So H is 0. And then what's my K value here? -4, so my vertex is 0, -4. Okay, let's graph this. So I'm going to go to my vertex 0, -4, that's right here. And then according to my slope, my 3 is 3 up, once to the right, and also 3 up, once to the left. Okay, connect the dots, and I'm done. So notice how this one's sharper than the previous one, right? Because the number in front was a number bigger than 1, so it makes it grow faster, so it becomes a sharper edge. So what do you guys think? Hard to graph these? I think they're pretty easy. It's not too bad. Okay, really no different than graphing lines, right? Just find your vertex and then use your slope. Graphing lines, we were finding our y-intercept and then using our slope, right? So same idea. Last two problems. This says write an equation of the absolute value function. Okay, write an equation of the absolute value function. Now, number 4 says that it's going to open up. Okay, it shifts 2 units to the left and it shifts 3 units down. So all I have to do is identify my A, my H, my K, and then from there just write out my equation. The y equals to a times x minus h plus k. Now there is one thing I am going to tell you. Sometimes they mention a by number, sometimes they don't. Here I didn't mention a by number. Look at example 5 though. I put a is equal to -3, right? If they don't mention a is 1, right? If they don't mention a is 1. So we kind of have to remember that if a isn't there, it has to be a 1. I kind of told you that earlier, right? If you don't see a is 1, right? So let me write down a, h, and k. So I'm going to put them right here to this part right here, a, h, and k. I know that a is positive because what they said it opens up. And since they didn't mention what number a is, that means a must be a 1. Okay? Then h. So now you got to look at the definitions I gave you, okay? It says h, it shifts 2 units to the left. So I know it's a 2, but is it positive or negative? Negative? Positive. Look at the definition that I said. Let's go all the way up here. If it is going to the left, what does it look like? It's a positive number. It looks like a positive number. That's when it goes left. If it goes to the right, it's going to look like a negative number, right? So it says 2 to the left, so it should look positive. Okay? If it would have said 2 units to the right, it should look negative. K value, 3 units down. That one's a -3 because K does not lie, right? H is the only one that messes with you. Left is supposed to be minus, so it must be plus. Right is supposed to be positive, so it must be minus for H because H is always lying. K does not lie. So if it says down, that's negative. If it says up, that's positive. So now that I know AH and K, let me write it down. Y equals 1 absolute value of x plus 2 minus 3. And this is my answer for that. Notice H looks like a positive 2. That means it really should have been negative, which means it really needs to move to the left. Right? So, all right. Are we okay with that one? Let's go to the next one really quick. And if you have any questions, let me know. But number 5 says it opens down. Okay? So that means A should be negative, and there it is. A is negative. So it opens down. It shifts 9 units. I forgot to write left and right, so hold on one second. It shifts 9 units right and 1 unit up. Okay, so we know it opens down, so A should be negative, and I see it right there. It's a -3, so that makes sense. It shifts 9 units to the right and 1 unit up, so let me write my A, H, and K. A is pretty easy, that's -3. What's H? -9. Okay, because it says it's going to the right, so it's got to look negative. And K? 1, +1. So all I got to do is write my equation out, okay? Y equals -3 absolute value x minus 9 plus 1. And that's it.